Welcome to lesson 11.2. In this lesson, we're going to talk about three main ideas. The first one is types of study. When we talk about statistics, we have three types of studies that we talk about. The first one is a survey. This is the kind of study you're going to be doing for your group project. A survey is the easiest kind of study to do. It's where you want to know how people feel, and so you just ask. And then collect your data and analyze it from there. Now, there are two other kinds of studies. This first one is an observational study. Now, the key to this one is that the researcher observes behavior, but doesn't try to influence or change it. So, for example, let's say there's a pharmacy company, they have a diet pill that they want to see if it works. So they put a bunch of people on this diet pill and then just see what happens. See if they lose weight. They don't change anything, they don't interact, they're just watching, just observing. There's also an experiment. This one is where the researcher specifically manipulates the variables. So you probably did things like this in elementary school science fairs. So say you want to grow a plant and you want to figure out what kind of liquid grows the plant best. So you put water in one plant, milk in one plant, and bleach in another plant and see what happens. That's an experiment. You're manipulating the variable. You're changing things to see what happens. In the real world, a good example of this is when a researcher gives one group a placebo pill, which is a pill that looks real but doesn't actually have anything in it, and then gives the second group the real pill. And then they analyze which group had more results. So that's the researcher manipulating variables, changing one thing for one group and another thing for another group. So those are the three kinds of study we often talk about in statistics. Like I said, the most common one is survey, and that's what you'll be using for your project. The second part of this lesson, we want to talk about type of data in your study. We have two types of data. We have quantitative and categorical. And we've talked about quantitative just a little bit in the last lesson, so we're going to talk about it just a little more. So quantitative data is data that gives numerical, answers. Data that gives numerical answers. So any question you ask and the answer is a number, that is a quantitative question. So some examples. What is your shoe size? How many siblings do you have? What was your ACT score? All of those questions get number answers. Some more examples are, how tall are you? How much do you weigh? Anything that gets a number, that is a quantitative question. Now, we do want to talk about one other thing, the difference between discrete and continuous data. Discrete is just a really fancy word for answers can't have decimals. So, for example, how many siblings do you have? You're never going to say 3.2 siblings. That's not going to happen. So that data is what we call discrete because the answers are whole numbers. Versus continuous, that is answers that can have decimals. So, for example, what is the temperature outside? We usually say it's 32 degrees, but we could say it's like 32.5 degrees. Or if we wanted to say, how tall are you? We could say I'm 5.362 feet. things like that. Any number that if you answer it, it makes sense to put decimals with it. That's what we call continuous data. So with that understanding, I want you to pause the video really quickly and try out this on your own. Try to read through these and think with the definition we just went over, are those discrete or continuous? Let's check what you got with what I got. Grade percentage. You can absolutely have 87.26% grade. That has decimals, so that's continuous. Number of students in the class. Definitely discrete. I don't say my class has 14.7 students. Oh, I'm going to sneeze. Okay, next one. How many colors are available? So if I have a bunch of colors, I say, well, how many are there? I don't really ever say I have 2.7 colors. That doesn't make sense. Distance traveled. That is definitely continuous. I can travel 8.7 miles. That makes sense. How fast you run, also continuous. I can run 11.63 miles per hour. So those are decimals. That's how you can tell the difference between discrete and continuous. Okay, last one for this video. Categorical. Categorical is data that gives category or word answers. So most common of these are favorite questions, favorite restaurant, favorite color, favorite class, favorite teacher. All of those answers are word answers or categories. So those are all categorical questions. So favorites are very common. So one last thing for the end of this video. Now that we've gone through and defined quantitative and categorical, I want you to try this really quickly. Read through these examples and say if they are quantitative or categorical, and then come back to check and see how you did. Let's see how you did. Eye color gives me word answers, so that's categorical. How many credits I need to graduate, that's a quantitative answer. You get numerical answers. Favorite food is categories. However, how many calories are in food, that is quantitative. How much you weigh is quantitative. That gives you numerical answers. And what the temperature is outside is quantitative. It gives you numerical answers. So that is it for this first video. In the next video, we're going to talk about ways that we can organize our data, meaning different types of graphs.